Hey, this is Rich from Midtown Comics. Here we're at Build in New York City. We're here with a man the great Stan Lee once said needs no introduction, but deserves one. He is the creator of Spawn, which is now the longest-running independent comic series in history, co-creator of Marvel Comics' Venom, creator of Spawn, co-founder of Image Comics, CEO of McFarlane Toys. You're a Guinness World Record holder, and currently working in the DC Comics multiverse toy line. This is Todd McFarlane.
Hey. The short version of that is just jack of all trade, master of none.
Exactly.
So we can get there quicker than that. So
yeah, no, very happy to have you here.
Sure, appreciate you guys having me today. I'm in town because of the New York Toy Fair, right? Every year there's a toy fair down at the Javits Center, and everybody comes out and shows their wares, and then you cross your finger afterwards and hope they buy it.
Yeah, you had a packed booth at that spot, you know, with the Mortal Kombat line you're working on. You got Doom, you've got video games you jump into with Fortnite, you know, there's the DC toy line right now.
So let me talk about the origin of that company.
Yeah.
About 25 years ago, which is my 25th toy fair, I was walking around. I was a fan of Geek, just like everybody else in the audience, right? And Geek, we wear that proudly. And I used to collect a lot of stuff, but I wouldn't collect the toys, and especially like the sports toys. And I go, why? And I go, it just doesn't look cool, right? It doesn't look real. It doesn't look cool.
Right.
And I literally started the company on one question: why can't they look better? And then ultimately, I phoned a couple people and I said, what does it take to make toys? And ultimately, in its simplest form, I wasn't asking to make a rocket ship to Mars or a computer. I was asking to put plastic in a shape. And then we just happened to come out, do the toys. People struck a chord because they said that they were a little more detailed and a little more interesting to look at, and we were off to the races, right? And then you
absolutely.
and then here's the thing about if you're going to be an entrepreneur, you need dumb luck, right? And here's the dumb luck of my very first toy fair. I literally went to toy fair. Hasbro and Mattel had their own building. I was in one building on one floor in one office, and it was divided into 40. I had a booth that was 5 by 5. And I had 0 prototypes, right? Never go to toy fair without a prototype. It doesn't work. This case, a little bit of dumb luck came. And then at that point, the biggest buyer in the country was Toys R Us. And the Toys R Us buyer walked in. And that was like, oh, the Pope. And everybody hushed. And then all of a sudden, everybody stood up like the barracks. And this was a sergeant coming in. And you're going, oh my gosh, what's happening? And I turned around the corner because I was around the corner. It was a long hallway. And as the Pope walked, otherwise known as the Toys R Us buyer, came walking. If he walked by you, you were getting no sales. So as you walked by people, you could just see them go, oh, dope, dope, dope. And they kept coming, and then they stopped in front of my booth. And ladies and gentlemen, he didn't stop because he knew what I was doing or my name or my product. The moment was he had a 21-year-old assistant next to him that did. Right? And the 21-year-old assistant, I still don't know his name to this day, turned and said, boss, this is the guy I'm telling you about. And at that point, Spawn the comic book was #1 in the country, so it was easy to say, hey, he's at the top of the charts, he's outselling Superman, Batman, Spider-Man. And the buyer asked me a couple simple questions, and let me also tell you, anytime anybody of big authority asks you any questions, always say yes. So he asked me the 2 questions, and of course I said yes. 1, can you deliver on this date? Yes. I didn't know if I could or not, but the answer is yes. And can you do it at this price? Yes. I didn't know if I could, but the answer is yes. He goes, if you can, I will put you in store-wide Toys R Us. What? So we figured it out. And oh, by the way, that's a domino. And then guess what happens? Walmart, Target, Toys R Us, Kmart that didn't want to take it, you now get to walk into Walmart and go, hey, Walmart, Toys R Us, which at that time was the biggest toy buyer, soon to be crushed by Walmart. But you walk in there and you say, hey, guess who just bought Spawn, this toy that I have, store-wide, your biggest competitor. And they then go, I'm missing something. Okay, I'll take it. And then you just go to the next guy, next thing you know, it's everywhere, and you're off to the races because of this 21-year-old geek that happened to like comic books. God bless that kid.
Thanks, that guy.
Yes.
Yeah.
But you need these moments in life.
Absolutely.
So, yep.
And with that now, you're on the DC toy line of stuff.
Yep.
It was eclectic mix of stuff. It's the comics, it's the cartoons, there was some movies.
Of the license I have with the DC Multiverse.
Right.
Correct. So again, there was always 3 licenses every time I went to the toy fair that I just felt like an orphan. I felt like everybody else in that room had a piece of Star Wars, Marvel, or DC. One of those 3. And I was the only one for 2.5 decades. But we eventually got the license just recently. Mattel had it. That contract ended at the end of 2019. We just started literally on January 1st. And we're off to the races doing some crazy stuff that hasn't been
Oh,
out
it's
there.
wonderful.
But
It's
but
great
I like
stuff.
to your point. We got the TV, movie, comic books, video games, animation, anything that's been in existence, DC multiverse for 70 years. I have access to it. Doesn't mean I'm going to make it all, but at least I get to look at it and just say, hey, does any of this stuff look like a cool toy, right? It doesn't have to be popular. It just has to be a cool looking toy.
Absolutely, and that's you got Wave 2 coming out soon, and that's got the Wonder Woman movie stuff, which is very nice. It's got Sean Gordon Murphy art for Batman White Knight, so it's great just mix of things that you. How much input do you have, and do you get to pick and choose what you want?
Not all the time, right? Name's Todd, only rhymes with God. So I just get to make as many suggestions as I want. So what I do is I come in with my toy eye,
Sure.
and I say, hey, I think these would make good looking toys, and then they either say, yeah, cool, or they push back and they say, we have this movie coming out with this TV show, we'd like to push this or push that or whatever else. But sometimes you just got to trust me. I've been at this thing for 30 years on the toy end almost, and we got a couple toys that are selling real well, and one of them had never had a comic book, had never even been on a full page. It had been in 4 panels scattered in one book. And it's one of my best-selling toys right now because it's a Superman in armor. And the reason they're buying it, not because it had its own comic book, because it's a good-looking toy at $19.99. And when you take it out, the wings sort of go up. He's in armor, and he looks super badass. So if you've got a Superman collection, you can now buy this one, and you don't feel like you're repeating anything that you had. And that's sort of the gaps that I have to fill. Not repeating what's already been done, but to add a little bit of sexy to anything. I've said before, here's the great genius of Steve Jobs among many, but I'm going to tell you what his genius was. When he came out with that iPhone,
Yes.
when he came out only 10 years ago, people think it's been around forever. It's only been around for 10 years. When he came out with the iPhone and he announced he was going to do a cell phone, there were other people in the business. As a matter of fact, they'd been there for a decade. And then he goes, it's going to text, and it's going to make music, and it's going to take pictures. And everybody said, everybody else's phone does that, Steve. Everything you do with your phone, everybody's already doing it. There was nothing in that phone that was different. And then the moment. This is all you have to do, ladies and gentlemen, to become a quote-unquote genius. Find 2%. And he went, no. I understand they all do email. I understand they all text. But when they text and they email, and you write the word the, you touch buttons. Mine, you touch glass. And people went crazy because I bet you half of you have an iPhone. It does exactly what the other phones were doing. You just touched glass, and it was sexy. Nobody was touching glass. So that's it. Stop thinking as an entrepreneur that you have to do anything original. Just take what exists, add 5% better to it, and they'll call you a genius. I'm telling you, this is how you get there. Don't put the pressure of having to invent something new and educate the populace. Get what they're already doing and just do it better, or give them twice as much at half the price. That also works.
I think a perfect example of that 2% doing something what people are doing, but making it and changing it a little bit is Spawn. You came in.
My guy.
This guy.
I created him when I was 16. So yeah. I never pulled him out when I worked at Marvel or DC. There was never an environment for me to pull him out and ever hand it over to the corporations. So I create some characters when I was at Marvel DC? Yeah, as part of my job. Venom being one of them, which was a happy accident. Just so you guys know, the reason that Venom even exists isn't because I was smart and I was intelligent. I knew how to create characters. Because I didn't want to draw Peter Parker in a black costume. That's it. That's literally the reason Venom exists. They wanted me to take over Spider-Man. He was in the black costume. I hated the black costume. It didn't look like Spider-Man. I wanted to draw the red and blue. And then they said, well, Todd, we want you to draw Spidey. I'm not drawing Spidey. Look, a normal human being would have said, I'm drawing Spider-Man, woo, and left, right? But I went, no, I'm not drawing Spidey. I don't want to draw him in the black costume. And I go, get rid of the black costume. I'll draw it. And they went, well, the guy upstairs likes it, the editor-in-chief, so you got to keep it. And I go, well, what if we just peel it off? Put it on another character. We'll come up with another character. We'll call him Venom, whatever the name is, whatever. I'll make it a big monster, and we'll push him off to the side. So issue 300, that is considered in our geek world the origin of Venom, to me isn't the origin of Venom. It's get that damn black costume off so I can put Peter Parker in the classic uniform. All right? That's what that issue is to me. So you get these happy accidents along the way that ends up being $1 billion success to Sony in a movie, right? I wish I could say I knew Venom was going to be a big hit. None of us knew at that point.
Right, yeah, and with specifically with the Venom movie getting big, I mean, that's got to open some doors, and with Joker and all this other stuff, because you're working on the Spawn movie.
Right.
You got some stuff going on there.
Right.
I'm
So
sure.
Joker, I mean, I kiddingly said at New York Comic Con, everybody go see this Joker movie. I thought it would make 200 million worldwide, and it would
Right.
help. And here's why: because I keep saying I've got Jamie Foxx and Jeremy Renner attached to my movie, and we want to do an R-rated, dark, serious movie, right? I want to do something that just scares the crap out of you. And they were bugging me in Hollywood, saying, no, you have to do, again, Marvel or JLA, DC Universe stuff. And I went, no, I want to do R. And they're like, there's no precedence for this. Yes, there was Deadpool and there, a little bit of Logan, but for the most part, all the money was in the PG-13.
Right.
And then Joker comes along, and not only does it make the 200 million, it makes over $1 billion. $1 billion breaks the record. It's the highest grossing R-rated movie in cinema history ever. And so now, the great thing about Hollywood, I love them, is that they're really good at replicating. And so now that one dark, serious R-rated comic book movie made $1 billion, they're all looking for one. But 95 of the top 100 comic books every month are Marvel or DC, and Marvel and DC are owned by Warner Brothers and Disney. So all the other companies, Sony and Paramount and Universal, and up until recently Fox and Lionsgate, if they're looking for product, there's only 3 or 4 that are left in the top 100. And a couple months ago, Spawn was #1, right? To put it in perspective, of all the comic books that were sold, all comic books. So, like Spawn has 12 cracks at that because he comes out monthly.
Sure.
Spawn was a #2 selling book in the entire country. Only got beat by Detective Comics 1000, which is a Batman issue. And of the top 11, it was the only title that placed twice in the top 11. There was no Spider-Man, there was no Iron Man, there was no Hulk, and there was no Thor in the top 11, let alone 2 of them, right? So there's these big billion-dollar entities that are trying their hardest to get their comic book, and then the little punk and a couple people that work for me come in here, and we just go, I don't know. Somehow he's resonating. I think you guys should make a movie. I think you guys should make a movie. I think it will work. Don't spend 200 million, spend 22 million. I think it'll work.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, and with Spawn breaking this record last year with the 300 and 301 and all that stuff, how did that feel to you as the creator of this character and being there? Did you think you'd hit this milestone? Did you think it was going to run as long as it did?
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. Sure. What are you talking about? Like when I have, sure, guys, no, I didn't know that I just said, I just go, I'm going to do it till I die. Right? I mean, there's going to be Image Comics. I'm the president of Image Comics. 7 of us found it. We left Marvel.
Absolutely.
And we started Image Comics. We're the 3rd largest. Everybody knows Marvel. Everybody knows DC. We're Image Comics. We're #3. We do 60 to 70 books a month. Some of them you may have heard of. The biggest one that you probably heard of, my partner is the one who created The Walking Dead. Robert Kirkman did The Walking Dead. We've got lots of our books. 23 of our books are in Hollywood in some kind of option or have been on TV that are out there, right? Deadly Class and a couple others that are out there. So we're doing okay. We're a creator-owned, creator-based company. Our company owns nothing. If anybody in this audience wants to do a comic book for us, you own it 100%. You get the same contract that I get, right? We vowed that we would create a world in which the creators own their ideas, and then we will give that same grace to anybody who works for us. All we do is help publish it a little bit, and then we just take a small snippet and we're off. We don't take a royalty. We don't take anything. Then if you want to sell it and make toy T-shirt hats, that's you. Right. Like, we don't get any of that. That's all you that's in there. So for Spawn, a few years ago when he came out, like I said, he was at the top of the charts. Here's how I wanted to build a brand. Let me just sort of digress a bit.
Please do.
I wanted to build a brand here. I thought that the comic books would be there. Then I needed 4 pillars. I needed video games, TV, movies, and toys. I was able to get the video games. The TV came. We did the HBO animated series. We won a couple
Fantastic
Emmys.
Show.
2 Emmys for it.
Yep.
And then we did the movie. The movie opened up at $20 million, which what I keep reminding Hollywood, that $20 million in 1997 with inflation is about a $42 million opening if I get the exact same number of people. And I don't know how I get the exact same number of people because the brand's been going. But let's just say it's the flat line. That's a $42 million opening on a $22 million budget. We should make this movie. And so those are the 4 pillars. And the 4th one was the toys. And I just I didn't get a sense that the Fortune 500 companies that came knocking, because Spawn was at the top of the charts, they go, what do you want to do? And I go, I think we need to make a non-traditional toy and sell it in non-traditional places. And I could just see that they couldn't move. The the value, the sort of the blessing of a giant company is its giant size. The downside of a giant company is its giant size. And giant companies move slow. And here, ladies and gentlemen, if you're listening to my voice and you're going to be an entrepreneur, do it. Because here's the weakness of giant companies. They move slow and they leave cracks. And the crack that I found with toys was that they would not do R-rated product. So I could go in there and say, what? You're telling me that you don't think there's a single human being that will buy The Predator or Aliens or Matrix or Friday the 13th or Elm Street? What are you talking about? Of course they will. You just have to, I can sell toys to my mom. I just have to make it look like Tom Jones with his shirt off, right? so you can, it's just the content of the plastic, and you just basically aim it towards a certain audience. And I just basically, I didn't try to go in direct competition with Hasbro and Mattel. That's a fool's game.
Right.
I just go, where aren't Hasbro and Mattel? There's a gap, and I'm going to go there. And it's what we do with the comic books and all the other stuff.
Well, yeah, you have, the McFarlane toy brand has always been super detailed, chunky figures, as you call them. They're always great, like these beautiful pieces and everything like that. You feel like you're, with your brand of stuff, you're always getting your value for what it costs.
Right, but here's the thing. Like, here's what amazes me, and this is what I was telling some of you out here. Find the 5%. I have won dozens of awards with my toys for the detail and the paint and the accuracy with the sports figures. We did football, baseball, basketball, hockey toys. And the accuracy. It's clay in a shape, and then you make toys out of it. You make your prototype with clay, and I'm winning awards, and they're going, oh, Todd, you're such a genius. You make it look so realistic or so detailed or so much paint. Clay's been around a long time, ladies and gentlemen. The question isn't, why does Todd McFarlane and his staff put it in this cool shape? The question is, why didn't they? Why didn't they? Mm-hmm. And so if you have that question, I'm telling you, the great ideas start with this question. And I know you guys have had it and you don't even know that you walked away from $1 million idea. I don't understand why they don't do this. When you're playing with something or you're doing something and somebody goes, if it was me, I'd do this. If you actually did that, you would be surprised at how innovative that product would be because you added that little extra. All I did was take toys that had been around a long time and made them sexy, just like Steve Jobs go, you're not touching plastic, you're touching glass. Bam! And all of a sudden, a revolution starts, right? So if you can find that, so we just put the clay in the right shape with the sports figures. With the sports figures, they're going, how do you make them so accurate? I look at photos. I don't know. They've been around a long time. I don't know why you guys weren't looking at photos, right? This is my life. I scratch my head going, I get way more accolades for doing stuff that should have been done a long time ago. God bless their stupidity, though, right? I've got a career. So
Absolutely. Of all the toys that you've made, of all the things you've worked on in those regards between baseball and all those other, the Spawn figures, do you have a favorite figure you've ever designed that you've made?
No. Here's what I do have. I have favorite figures, parts of them.
Oh.
So I get asked this question a lot. There's not one single one. What there are moments. Okay. And I go, oh my God, we got the likeness of that actor. Mm-hmm. We can do it. Oh my gosh, we got the wrinkles on that guy's shirt when he was twisting like a sports figure. We can do it. Oh my gosh, we got that glitter paint and we did this fade. We can do it. Look at how detailed the hair is on that figure. We can do it. And so there's this jigsaw puzzle, and I'm still waiting to put it all together to do the elusive perfect figure. But I think at some point in the last 25 years, we've touched all of it at some moment.
Absolutely.
And so to me, I just go, oh, the cape's good, right? The figure looks like crap, but the cape is good, right? It's a good
Great
figure.
Capes.
Yes. No. But then you show that to your sculptors and you say, hey, then do this cape. Make it look like this, and you try to put as much of the good and stop doing the bad. Okay. And then you just slowly are going to get better at anything that you do if you just keep doing the right moves over the wrong moves, right? It's like playing sports, right? If you got your eyes closed every time the ball comes, just open your eyes, do that move more than the other move. You'll be surprised how much better you'll get the ground balls.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Total side note, just because it just popped in my head. What's your thoughts on the Venom movie this year? That's the
It was
character you
actually a
put
couple.
for-
It was actually a couple years ago. It was because I remember it was this October. Toy New York Comic Con was the release of Joker, and the year before was Venom. Look, I was the visual creator of it,
Sure.
and to me, I just made Venom big. Right,
Sure.
that was it. That's all I did. Right. So again, that design I made for him was super simple. It was just a monster, and if you look at it, Peter Parker to me was this big, one finger, right, and then Venom, he was 3 fingers. Now why? Because if you go this up to this, that's a fight. That's a fight, right? So if somebody said, Todd, I need you to push over an elephant because that thing is way bigger than me, I'm not going to be able to punch it in the face and it's going to fall over. So I'm going to have to think about how to beat and defeat the elephant, right? I'm going to have to make a trap. I'm going to have to make a trap. I can't do my normal stuff. So I wanted to create a character in which Peter Parker couldn't fight him the same way he fought maybe the Green Goblin or one of his other
Absolutely,
enemies or something like that. So it's just silly stuff. And then, even the poses, I did these crazy poses as Spider-Man, and I used to get in trouble with it from upstairs, and I reinvented some of the webbings
Spaghetti
on
webbing.
him and stuff. And I remember that when Sam Raimi did the first movie, there were a couple people that I knew that were helping on it, and they had some of my comic books, and he goes, I want it to look like Todd stuff. It's really super cool. So they ended up getting somebody in. They do those poses, and the human being couldn't do it. So they said, "We'll get somebody double jointed." They couldn't do it, and I go get triple jointed. They couldn't do it. They went to Circus du Soleil. They got some of those distortionists. They still couldn't do it, and then they just used computer generated because you just forget anatomy. Just put it into cool poses, and it looks good on paper and it looks good on screen. And don't worry whether the body can do it. Right. So sometimes we're in the drama. We're about drama. We're in the creative business, and you don't have to worry that it all realistically works. Just make it cool, right? I'm in the cool business every day of my life. And I can sell cool all day long.
Oh, all day long, for sure. I think we have questions from the audience.
Oh, we do?
Yes. There's definitely a few of those. Who's my first guy?
Right here, right here. New York Islanders, right here.
You want to be the first guy?
Come on up.
All right, take this one.
Hi, Todd. Thanks for doing this.
Sure, thanks for coming today.
I know you collect baseball memorabilia. I want to know
He's
how
talking about an infamous $3 million baseball I once bought, right? So let's talk about that real quick, right? And then you can get to your question. I bought a $3 million ball. It makes no sense. Why would you buy a $5 ball for $3 million? It was Mark McGuire's 70th baseball. There's one reason, ladies and gentlemen, marketing. I wanted to make sports figures. They wouldn't let me make sports figures because they're like, little boy, we don't even know who you are. But you spend $3 million on a baseball, which is basically the ante at the big boys poker game, and all of a sudden they're going, wow, this guy must be somewhat successful. He's got $3 million, right? I beg, borrow, and steal every single red cent I had to buy that baseball. And we got the ball, and then all of a sudden I got a meeting with football, baseball, basketball, and hockey, and in short order, I had all of those 4 licenses, and over the 10, 12, 15, 20 years we did them, I made all that money back in spades. So if you look at it as a $5 ball, it was the dumbest thing you ever saw. If you look at it as a $3 million bet, the pot was way bigger at the end of 20 years than I put in. So sometimes you just have to do unorthodox things, which is why I got to remain private, because you can't do this as a public company, because that sounds like insanity, what I just said. So what's your question?
Was there a certain piece that is one of your favorite, whether it's baseball or hockey or anything like that?
Did I collect?
Yes.
It's interesting. People ask me that, and although I spent a lot of money, way more than I did, because I ended up buying the Barry Bonds ball. I got the top 3 home run baseballs: Barry Bonds 73, Mark McGuire 70, and Sammy Sosa 66. And you guys can have a heart attack about it being PEDs or steroids. I don't care. Go to the record book, look up the record. Those 3 books, they're never going to change it. Get over yourself, right? So I own the top 3. I own the top 3, and as time goes by, we're just going to be like old people, and then the young kids are going to go, Mom and Dad are so worried about those guys. I don't understand. They're cool. They hit 70 homers. The stuff that I like personally, you would go, pardon? It is like $5 items and $6 items. You know all those things that we had when we were kids that there's now you can buy off eBay, and you go, man, I had this when I was 7. This is my favorite thing. It doesn't have to be expensive. It just has to be something that's meaningful to you. So, all right. Another question. Okay, you're up.
Michael?
Anthony.
Peoples. Hey, good journey, everybody. Good journey, Todd. Thank you so much for doing this.
Sure, and I like your shirt.
Thank you very much.
Represent. I like him represent.
Thank you for Alamo Draft House. That's where I got this.
Oh, there
at the
you go.
signing.
Sure.
I love being in the room with you because I think that you have such a wonderful connective tissue to your fan base when you talk And when you post videos on Instagram, you're such electric, alive, that you always leave tidbits of brand building to your fan base, and it just connects to me in my heart so much.
So
because
let me tell you why some of that's there. Besides, I've got a good family structure, so and they taught me to be sort of nice to people. Is I used to go to comic conventions, and I used to meet. There's only two people you meet: the nice people and the not so nice people. And I remember the first couple conventions I went to, I met some nasty people. I didn't understand it. They flew all the way from New York to California, and I go, why would you fly across country to be a grump? It didn't make any sense. And then I met other people that were saints. And I remember the 16, 17-year-old saying, man, if I'm ever on that side of the table, I want to act like that guy. Oh, number two, which is way more important. Every human being that stands in front of me to ask for an autograph or shows me something has at some point spent their hard-earned money and given a portion of it to me or my companies. Ultimately, my life, my career, the food on my table is because of my fans. I don't understand any celebrity who's off-put by their fans. Without fans, we have no career. So people say, Todd, you're so nice, you're so gracious. What are you talking about? I have no life without you. Of course, I owe you. Maybe you get something out of me, so maybe it's a two-way street. But I owe you guys my living, so why wouldn't I be nice to you? I want you to keep it up so I can keep doing it.
Yeah, it's a beautiful thing. It's like a father who is instructing his youth on how to kind of be on the other side of the table that you're on
You know, when
someday.
I used to be the cool brother, and then it was like the hip uncle, and now I'm like the dad. I'm getting older, right? So I've been at it for 35 years now. I guess I'm older than I thought. But years ago, I met Stanley, and to me, he was just like filled with energy. And that was when he was in his 50s. And then later on, when I got to know him really closely, I'd probably been up on stage with Stan more than any human being, and especially the last 10 years of his life, that guy had energy all the way up to 94 and a half. It was staggering. And I go, man, there's the model, right? Why not? Like, life's good, right? You get air in your lungs in the morning, it's a good day.
I was going to ask about the movie, but is there actually, speaking, something that us as fans, because you spoke about how the movie, is there something that us as fans can do to give back to that process to maybe help it get greenlit more? Is there some way we can tweet? Is there someone we can send to be like, write that check?
There's two things, and it's an interesting question because there's a word now that didn't exist before, and I probably did it in the toy business. It was called being a disruptor. Right? So I'm just a bit of a rebel. I hate myself, but I just can't turn it off. I'm like a 12-year-old, 17-year-old boy. When mom said come in at 11, I always came in at 11:15 just to see what the consequences were. So I just did it. I'm trying to play by their rules. I'm trying to play by their rules right now, and we're going to end up doing it. And with the Joker, I think we're going to get there. But if we don't, I am telling you, and I keep saying it to them, I will go out to you good people, and I'm going to make one request. I need 20 million of you to give me $1, and we'll go make this thing, and we'll get it done the way we want to see it, right? If they don't get it, then we'll just do it ourselves, and we'll make it the #1 movie, right? So most people who do that are begging to try and get in. It will be, I guarantee it, the first movie that would be crowdfunded that would end up at #1 in the box office. That would be a guarantee, and that would change the model. So I'm trying to be nice. I'm hoping we can get it done in the next. I almost had it last week. We were this close to it, and because I could have made an announcement today, and I lost my guy, and the money was behind him. So I've got another meeting literally tomorrow to keep it going. We'll get this done, but if not, shoot, there's a back door, there's an equalizer. We can just talk to each other. Yeah, yeah.
You, sir.
Hey, Todd. My name's Markel. I was curious. I know you were talking about adding in something new for a character, and I know recently in Spawn 300 you made a change to the way Spawn looked.
Yep.
So I was wondering, you were saying, adding the sexy. If you could pick a character in comics that you think is maybe right now he's kind of lost, he or she has lost their mojo.
Yeah.
Who would you like to change, whether it be story or art style?
Well, let me just tell you, in this, I don't pay attention to my competition, right? I'm too busy. I got my head down. Right? I don't get distracted by what they're doing. I do know when I was drawing for both Marvel and DC, my favorite character, the character I wanted to do what you're talking about, was the one that they gave me, right? I think that every character at some point you just can fall in love with, right? So instead of saying, oh my God, they gave me an Iron Man, I wish I had Captain America, you just take Iron Man and you go, what can I do with Iron Man that nobody else has done before, right? And it was really the essence of what put me literally on the trajectory that I went and the ride I went for on Spider-Man. And again, I started writing it, and just so you know, besides this is a record setter for the longest a creator-owned book. The first issue is, again, a record for a single issue, and I also own the record for corporate, which is what Spider-Man #1, right? And so I own the corporate and the non-corporate record. I'm not saying it bragging. I'm just saying as a fact. No, it's a fact, right? So, and the only reason was because I just said, hey, how can I entertain myself with these characters? So Spider-Man, to me, when I took over Spider-Man, it was like almost 1990, and they were still drawing him the way they had been drawing him since 1965. Like, they hadn't updated him. And so this is the thing. Remember I said, like, oh my gosh, you get credit for stuff you shouldn't. I updated him to 1990, and if somebody had been doing it every 5 years, it wouldn't have mattered, because it would have been a 5-year jump. But because nobody had been paying any attention and they were paying too much homage to 65, it had been now a 25-year jump. And everybody's like, oh my gosh, look at the change McFarlane's making. And it shouldn't have happened. Like, the question is, why weren't they doing it every 5 years? Thank God for their stupidity again, right? I'm telling you, it is good when you're hanging around dumb people. So you get there by doing something a little bit different. And let me also tell you, it is a lonely occupation to sit in a room for 12 hours a day drawing. So if you're not entertaining yourself, whew, it's a long day. So everything I draw, I'm literally just going back to the 10-year-old Todd going, wouldn't this be cool? Wouldn't this be cool? Wouldn't this be cool? And I draw it, and luckily the audience wants to see the same cool. And then they buy it, and then the corporations have to sit there and say, ugh, we got to put up with it. We don't like the style. We don't like the look. We don't like the changes, but it's making us money, and they're in the commerce business, and ultimately they have to go. It's really why I left Marvel, because by the time I left Marvel, I took over Spider-Man, Amazing Spider-Man, when it was number 22, and we took it to the top of the charts. And they still were every time I went to New York, they would call me in the office, and they'd wag a finger at me and tell me to stop doing what I was doing. And they would just go, we don't like the look, we don't like the style, we don't like, and it's like, I'm selling more books than anybody you employ. Why do we have this discussion? This is bizarre. Every other occupation basically will say thank you to the people that are taking their product to the top, right? And instead, it was like, yeah, but it doesn't look like the way we've been doing it for 25 years. Let me also tell you, the greatest enemy you all will run into, ad nauseum, sorry to say, is people clutching status quo. They will protect status quo. Corporations, people who want raises and promotions will collect. They will never advocate for you. So the reason I fight as much as I do, because I know every single day there's no human being that's going to get up and say, I'm going to make Todd McFarlane's life better, other than me. So if you don't want to advocate for yourself, I've met people go, well, I don't know, how do I get past this? If you don't want to advocate for yourself, it ain't going to happen. That's 100%, right? You got to fight for yourself. And then even if you want the fighter spirit, because I'm ready for war every day. Mm-hmm. If you want to fight, they're going to tell you every day it can't be done. It's impossible. Why? Because I've never seen anybody the head in front in a race ever slow down for the person behind them. The person in front always wants to win. So no corporation's going to go, oh, you got a better idea than me? Let me just get out of your way and let you walk by. I'm going to encourage, it will never happen. So you have to just push and push and push. And Steve Jobs has to make his computer in a garage, and eventually it works. Because big companies get so successful that they protect their status quo so much, their innovation and creativity starts to soften. And then the crack, and then somebody else comes up, and the innovation comes along, and doosh, they become the new giant. And then they start protecting the status quo. And then another one, this has been happening since the dawn of man. Change and death are the only two constants in life, right? And we know this, which is weird. People will protect status quo, even though change is the only common denominator. Otherwise, we'd all be living in caves. We change that too. So to me, if you're also worried about pleasing everybody, if you're a people pleaser, ain't gonna work. Nobody ever made a mark historically that pleased everybody. As a matter of fact, sometimes they were the most hated person. You just have to do it, right? Nike has the greatest slogan ever. I wish I did it. Just do it. Just do it. And don't let anybody tell you otherwise.
Well, that's fantastic. Wow, that was loaded. So we got to wrap it up here.
Okay.
Want to thank Build Series for inviting us in. Please follow Todd at Todd McFarlane. Follow Midtown at Midtown Comics. Follow Build at Build Series. Todd, thank you so much for coming out, man.
Sure, appreciate it. Thanks for having me today.
Right.
Yeah,
Thank
my
you,
pleasure.
everybody.
Yeah. No.